Transformational leadership is one of the most frequently used terms in higher education and beyond, yet often we're not quite sure what that means, and even if we are, we're not quite sure if we're doing it or how we should be doing it. We need to be clear about what that language means and how to develop the capacity for transformational leadership in other leaders and in ourselves. For me, transformational leadership means moving beyond the transactional. It means a shift forward that sticks, that fundamentally changes and can't go back. Think more about the caterpillar turning into the butterfly. In this moment of attacks, of uncertainty in higher education and beyond, we're all craving transformational leadership to make things fundamentally different. And many of us are trying to be transformational leaders to the best of our ability, but find ourselves falling a little bit short. When we have greater awareness that transformational leadership isn't a binary of I'm doing it or I'm not, or I can or I can't, but there's a progression. With awareness of that ladder of transformational leadership, we can be more conscious of our leadership, make shifts, and better serve those we lead. As we work to be better as transformational leaders, making those fundamental shifts in our organization that serve those we lead and beyond, thinking about this progression can be really helpful. It can help us bring awareness to where we are, where we'd like to be. So we're not trying to go make too big of a leap. This is a developmental progression. And I want to break this ladder into two halves. We start at the bottom of the ladder, which is really about management or transactional leadership. And we begin where maybe the leader is indifferent to transformation. They may have a formalized leadership role or title, but they're actually not interested in leadership. They're not interested in influence or the responsibility that comes with it. They'll take the title, they'll take the pay, but they really would rather avoid leadership because they've seen the criticism and consequence that can come with it. Next up on the ladder is reactive leadership. This is where we're just reactionary to the crisis of the moment. And when we get really good at handling the crisis of the moment, what tends to happen, we start to see crises all around us because that's where we think our skill set is. So we have little room for future planning and direction and are always just responding to the crisis of the moment and the urgency that comes with it. Next up on the ladder is problem-focused leadership. This is where we're identifying problems, solving problems, and anticipating problems, trying to solve them ahead of time. When you have this approach to leadership, one of the upsides is you can solve a lot of problems. One of the downsides is you start looking for problems everywhere because that's where you think your leadership focus can be. Next up on the ladder is change management. This is where we're making a shift, a transition of some kind, and I define change as neutral. It can be good or bad. Transformation is defined as being positive. But change management is really about making a shift and then managing the resistance to it. It's still transactional in its nature. From here, we move into the transformational part of the ladder. And this is where we begin with transformational leadership. We're really beginning to look toward a different future, imagine what it could be, move toward those possibilities, and a better version of the present for us and those we serve. Now, once we start to lead for transformation, then the next place is how do we create transformational teams so that the transformation isn't all on us as the individual leader, but we create transformational leadership teams where that can be shared, where we develop complementary capacities to adapt, learn, and move forward together. The next step above that is creating transformational cultures. When we have transformational cultures, the culture itself, the stories, the rituals, the ethos of the organization, of the people, of the place, foster curiosity, learning, trust, risk-taking, and forward movement. When you have a culture of leading for transformation, it no longer depends on any individual leaders alone. This is really important because many leaders are trying to work towards transformation, but struggling. We get pulled into the details. We get pulled into problem solving or being reactionary. We're focused not on a transformational change that could better serve everyone, but we get pulled into managing the resistance to a shift in the org chart. When we understand where we're at on the ladder of transformation, it can really help us be more conscious as leaders. Where am I at? Where am I leading from when it comes to this? It might not be where I aspire to be. Is that because that's my default, my preference, where I tend to lead from? Or is it because of the people around me, the organization, the structure, the systems? It's usually a little bit of both. If we can be more conscious about where we're at, we can then look to what's the next rung I can aspire to and begin to move up the ladder of transformation. We can also start to analyze ourselves and the systems and structures and people around us. Rather than ask, am I being a transformational leader or not? We can ask ourselves, where am I at on this continuum? Where am I primarily leading from right now? And what would it take to move to the next rung on the ladder? Transformational leadership isn't a personality trait that you have. It's a skill, capacity, and practice that you can develop so that we can do this individually, collectively, and culturally.